Hello everybody. Okay, this is the next installment in Adventures in Chinese Guitars. So I've had a chance to look these things over. There's some things that are really cool, some things maybe not so cool. Before I get going though, one thing I need to make absolutely clear. This is the Chinese guitar. It is not a Gibson. It is not a counterfeit. It's not a fake. It's not intended to be one. So why do I say that when it looks so much like this here good old American Gibson Les Paul? So in no way are they intended to be a fake Gibson Les Paul. So others may disagree. You know what? That's what makes the world go round. So but this is not intended to be a fake Gibson Les Paul at all. So for right now, just consider this a cow brand guitar. It's a guitar with a cow on it. It's the famous cow puppet brand. All right, so how are these guitars similar? How are they different? What the heck's going on with all this? So right here, again, this is one of the 6 Chinese guitars that I got. And then here is my Les Paul Standard Plus. Gorgeous guitar. Actually has a darker flame than the veneer on this one. But how are they similar? How are they different? Well, couple of differences, and they both are kind of related to cost. First is, you'll notice this one has a scarf joint. Very hard to see up there, but it does have a scarf joint. What does a scarf joint do? It does 2 things. One is it makes the guitar less expensive. Secondly, it makes the guitar actually stronger. So the other thing is, here in the heel, they actually took 2 pieces of wood. There's a piece of wood glued on down here to add the thickness. So that's purely related to cost. Now, when it comes to wood and glue, remember, as Norm Abrams used to say, glue is stronger than wood. So glued up pieces of wood are actually stronger than solid pieces of wood. If you don't believe that, you shouldn't buy either one of these guitars because the neck is glued into the body. So if you don't believe in the ability of glue to hold wood together, you should just avoid a Les Paul altogether and go with a Fender Stratocaster because it has mechanical fasteners. So, other than that though, how close are these guitars? Let me pull out some calipers and we'll see if we can find out. Alright, so I have these calipers. They're not particularly great. They're just really inexpensive calipers that I got off of eBay. Let me see if I can get a little closer on this while I do this then. Alright, so how wide are these things at the nut? And so I'm going to take this caliper here, open it up, and for the Gibson Les Paul, it is, let's go to millimeters, a little easier to read there, 43.74 millimeters, so almost 44 millimeters. What about this here Chinese guitar right here? This one's actually wider, 44.33, so about a half a millimeter wider. Why is that? Because Chinese Les Paul-ish looking guitars are patterned after Epiphones, not Gibsons. Epiphones have a 44 millimeter wide neck. Gibsons have a 43. So ever so slightly wider at the neck. Okay, so what about other measurements? What if we go to the body here? We've got 55.63. We've got 55.58. I mean, really close. How about the body? I actually had to pay the Chinese extra. Have them source different wood. 52.7, 54.9. These guitars are just very similar all the way around. Now you'll notice there is some material here below the end of the fretboard. There's none here. It's just wide open. So there's that. But if we look, these guitars are really close. And that was the goal, to get it close. I mean, it didn't have to be exact, but I wanted something that played like a Les Paul. So if we flip it over, this one I'm working on right now, which is why it's all taken apart. And then, you know, they're basically similar. So what you'll find is as you take these Chinese ones apart and analyze them, they're very close to Epiphones. So it makes me wonder if maybe Epiphones are thinner than Les Pauls. So all in all, really extremely similar guitars. The other difference is these are all 2-piece mahogany backs. Gibsons are 1-piece back. Even when they're painted like this, you know, you can't see what's behind this dark stain, but there is a 1-piece back here. and this one's 2-piece. So as far as weight goes, this isn't a total apples to apples comparison because this one has tuners on it and it's got the Tone Pros on down there, and this one doesn't have any of that. But let's weigh them and see about the weight. Because you can kind of tell a cheapish guitar if it's just done with not very dense wood. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to put the scale right here. And we'll weigh the Les Paul. 5.8 as it is. So, you know, it'll be a pound or two heavier with the pickups. And, oh, really, I mean, it's probably 6-7 pound guitar. It's pretty light. Today's Les Pauls are light. They realize players don't like huge, heavy guitars. This one from China, without anything on it, is 5.1. So it's actually a nice, heavy guitar. So it's got nothing on it. So you figure half pound for the tuners and probably another pound or so. So these are 6 or 7 pound guitars, both. So that's it. They're both really similar. Now, that's the good news. What's the bad news? Fret wire. Horrible, horrible fret wire. So I don't like it. It's very small. And I may end up taking this fret wire off. So I don't like it. I think it is a low grade of fret wire. And it's tiny. It's like micro fret wire or something. The Gibson is clearly a taller fret wire. I think they call it a 6105 wire for most Gibsons these days. So I may end up refretting all of these Chinese guitars. They are fret overbinding for the most part, so I can do that, but that's a real disappointment. And I don't know if there was a way around it. I mean, that's the trouble with Chinese metallurgy, is that they use cheaper alloys because their market niche is less expensive stuff. All right, so what about fretboard radius? Let's take a look. I got some radius gauges here. Let's see if I can find the 10. Les Pauls are supposed to be a 10. I guess we're going to know here soon, aren't we? These things aren't even in order. Okay, I found my 10. That's a 10. It's a 10. It's like Bo Derek. Okay, fretboard radius here is a 10. What about this guy from China? China, is that rocking? No. The van is not rocking. You may come a knocking. So yeah, both exactly 10. So 10-inch radius on the fretboards, just like what you really want on a Les Paul. So what about scale length? So this is where things get a little complicated. We all know that a Gibson Les Paul has a what? 24.75? 24 3/4 inch scale length. Epiphones have a 628 millimeter scale length. It's just whatever. I mean, this is the Royale with cheese because of the metric system, right? We can't have the quarter pounder. All right, so, but when you measure an actual Gibson Les Paul, like take your straight and measure this thing, you will find that it looks almost like it's a 24.5-inch scale. So as I lay this thing on here, if you just eyeball it, this is coming in right at 12.25 inches. But if you look at it super, super close, you'll see it's just a tick over 12.25 inches. Now, it's not quite, what would that be, 5/16? But it's just a little bit over 12.25. That would mean this is a 24.5-inch scale length, right? But it's not. It's supposed to be called 24 3/4. It's because it's compensated. When you compensate the nut a little bit, you shorten up the distance to the first fret, and Gibson will tell you this actual distance is probably like 24.57. So don't get freaked out if you ever actually measure to the 12th fret. This Chinese guy, I actually told the factory that don't even make those things until you send me your CNC programming so that I know exactly what it is. And they did. It took them a while. And then, because I wanted to know, I'm not going to take guitars that don't have the frets cut in the right location. And this one, not compensated, which is the way guitars were made for the longest time, right? So all of the classic guitars were made like this. And it is boom right there at 31.4 right on the button. So this is 628 millimeter exactly. So if you're looking for, actually this is truer to like the old classic 50s Les Paul dimensions. So this whole thing started a couple decades ago. So this is a relatively recent when they started compensating it, and they actually shortened it up. So it's much closer, this is much closer to 24.5 than it is to 24.75. And this one's actually really close to 24.75. So this is a more traditional scale length. So, and that's it. So I mean, I took out the calipers, I measured these frets, they're great. Everything on here is fine. Obviously Gibson just makes great stuff. You don't have to check anything they made. Everything they make is just top quality. But took out the calipers and checked the distance from fret to fret and from the nut. This one worked out great. So that's it. So the scale length on both of these is different though. Why? Because again, in China, Les Paul type guitars are all patterned after Epiphone Les Pauls, not Gibson Les Pauls. Why is that? Because Gibson built a factory in China to make Epiphone Les Pauls, and in China, once one factory starts making something, those plans go everywhere. So if you want to protect intellectual property, you better not send your stuff over to China. Gibson really made a mistake doing that. So, but yeah, so these are two guitars you can see. Similar. I don't want this to be a replica or a counterfeit. I want people to be able to look at this guitar and know right away that it is not a Gibson Les Paul, and I don't think there would be any confusion on that. But all the playability things, I mean, it's pretty close. I mean, I'm looking at the arch on the body. They both have the carved top. Gibson's carved top might stand a little bit taller. I mean, you know, but the thing is, it's like, I don't even know what these things go for these days. Like $3 grand, $2,500, you know, and these are obviously much cheaper. So these things very soon are going to start getting some more stuff on them. But like I said, I'm really, I know for sure I'm going to refret one of them, and probably all 5. Both because I worry about the quality of the way they put the frets in, but also because I think the frets are going to wear prematurely. I don't want to build these guitars and then have them need a total refret sometime soon. So that's the next installment in this adventure. So stay posted. Hit like or subscribe if you could, please, and I'll walk you through this whole process. We'll build these things up, and there'll be actual entire guitars here very soon. Thank you. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.